আমায় শোনা যাচ্ছে কিনা কেউ যদি একটু কমেন্ট করে জানান whether I'm audible or not. Please, if somebody lets me know that whether I'm audible or not. প্লিজ একটু কেউ যদি কমেন্ট করে জানান যে আমাকে শোনা যাচ্ছে কিনা, মানে whether I'm audible or not. সাম্যব্রত শোনা যাচ্ছে? আমি ধরে নিচ্ছি যে শোনা যাচ্ছে। Good evening again. My heartfelt gratitude to Gauriya Nritya Bharati for giving me an opportunity to talk on a subject which I would love to talk about. I'm very sorry that I would have to speak in English today because some of my students from Mumbai and some of my friends from outside Kolkata had shown interest to listen to this talk. So, unfortunately, I would have to speak in English. My Bengali friends and my Bengali students need to forgive me for that. During this lockdown period, I have refrained from doing something in this virtual media. Many people have been doing something or the other, storytelling, short films, small theatrical productions even, recitations, dances, lots of performances. But I had refrained from doing anything in the virtual world because I had always believed that because I'm a theatre person, my main interest is to walk with living people, feel their vibrations when I'm walking, and then only I can walk. Otherwise, no, I can't. I can't walk in a virtual media. But this request came from Guru Dr. Moha Mukherjee herself, and some people in this world really mean a lot for me. Dr. Moha Mukherjee, you all know, through her extensive researches, academic and practical, and through her lifelong practice of dances, she had been able to give birth to the classical dance of Bengal, the Gauriya Nritya. She had extensively traveled to the villages. She had traveled to every corners of Bengal, read every material available, visit every academician, scholars, practitioners, starting from Gambhir Singh Mora to the present day people. And through this extensive work, she has been able to give birth to the classical dance of Bengal, the Gauriya Nritya. And so I have a very special respect and love for this lady. And so when Mohadi told me to give this talk, I could not say no. But I'm a little bit shaky today talking because normally when I had given any lecture, I had found faces of living people. I had been able to understand their reactions, whether they are accepting my words or whether they are very passive about what I am saying. And another very important thing is, in last few years, whenever I had taught in any university or whenever I had given a talk, I had been accompanied by my actors and musicians. So they had demonstrated a bit, I had talked a bit, and the whole thing had flowed like that. But now I am talking to the wall, because it's not possible for me to read the reactions that is coming in the form of comments. I will be only speaking without actually understanding that whether I am boring you or not. Today's subject is Rasa Abhinaya and Rasa aesthetics. I have jotted down few points because this subject is like an ocean. If we start talking, we can talk for months, for years on this subject. There has been extensive research on this, both in the Eastern world and in the Western world. Western scholars, practitioners had shown great deal of interest about our Rasa theory. So I had chosen few points on which I would stick to. I had noted down some points and I would highlight on those points only. My specific interest is looking into the Rasa theory as a practitioner of theatre. I'm not a very scholarly person. My scholarly interest is very personal. I do that to enrich my knowledge so as to function properly in theatre. But basically I'm a practitioner. So I would like to make a journey to the Rasa theory as a practitioner in the light of a practitioner. The Rasa theory was used extensively by three eminent theatre persons. They had used the Rasa theory and followed the tradition of Natyashastra. They followed the tradition of Rasa Abhinaya existing in the country and formulated definite processes and exercises and means through which Rasa Abhinaya can be done properly. One is eminent theatre personality, Kudiyattam exponent G. Venu. He lives in Irinjalakuda. He is a very eminent Kudiyattam person and a theoretician. He's a scholar as well. So these days Venuji is conducting a workshop called Navarasa exercises or Navarasa workshop, something like that. It's very scientific. He has mixed his experience of working with maestros of Kudiyattam. He has mixed his experience of looking into the tradition with the contemporary acting features, understanding the contemporary world, understanding the contemporary actors' crisis, understanding the contemporary actors' features and dialectics. He had used his experience of working with traditional artists and mixed both to formulate the exercises of Navarasa. Second is Richard Schechner, the American theatre person. He had studied Rasa aesthetics extensively. We all know that he has a special interest for the Eastern cultures, specifically Indian cultures, Indian performing arts, Indian rituals. Richard Schechner has studied Rasa aesthetics extensively and he has formulated a set of exercises called Rasa boxes. Rasa boxes exercises have been formulated by Richard Schechner. These are methodologies to practice rasa, to practice emotive connotations based on our rasa theory, but the approach is very Western. Richard Schechner's approach is very Western. Rasa boxes, he says, he calls it. So one is G. Venu, the other is obviously Richard Schechner, and another lady who should be named is Vinabani Chawla. She had passed away very untimely, and she had worked extensively on this subject. She had tried to use Rasa Abhinaya experience of Kudiyattam into contemporary acting. And she has discovered a definite methodology of actors training using Rasa Abhinaya. I will give a basic theoretical introduction, and then I will read out from the writings of these three maestros, Venuji, Richard Schechner, and definitely Vinabani Chawla. You will find very interesting. I will read very small portions from their writings, but as practitioners you will find it very relevant, you will find it very interesting. And if you develop further interests in knowing about their processes, you can very well inbox to me, and I will try to give you material or talk personally. Now, will someone please comment that whether I am properly audible? You are being able to listen to me? Am I speaking a bit fast? Whether should I go slow? Is my English diction okay? You can follow me. Will somebody comment, please? If somebody who is listening to this talk, please make a comment saying that whether I am audible and whether you can follow my English. Maybe I am the only speaker nobody is following. However, we theatre artists and dancers and other performers had talked so extensively about rasa and vava as mentioned in Bharata's Natya Shastra, and read the basics of it in university classes, that it would be a rather boring experience to have again another class of rasa theory. I don't want to do that. Mentioning the names of Navarasa, describing the Navarasa, that would be rather a boring thing. Theatre people in Kolkata do not have much of interest in Natya Shastra or any tradition whatsoever. But dancers, they read a bit of Natya Shastra and they are aware of this Navarasa. Students going to Ravindra Bharati read about it as well. And many theatre people out of their own interest know about Rasa Abhinaya. Now, what should I do then? Instead, I would like to look in the subject as a theatre director and address my understandings and confusions with reference to whatever theoretical material was available with me and my experience of watching traditional performances. I would try to focus on the performance aspects, talk about the abode of rasa and vava, their interrelationships, their intra-relationships that matters for a performer and not absolutely from a theoretical or academic perspective. The rasa, the concept of rasa had a prelude to the Natya Shastra. But the actual concept of rasa as it is applicable for the performers, for the actors, Abhinaya is sourced from Natyashastra basically. Now what is Natyashastra? We know about Natyashastra, we go on talking about Natyashastra, but if you are questioned that what is Natyashastra, we have a very vague answer, sometimes very incomplete and indefinite answer. Natyashastra, we have to remember, is a Shastra, a very holy book with the presence of the gods. It's religious. Unlike Aristotle's theory of poetics, Natyashastra, in spite of being a Shastra, is an encyclopedic, very elaborate treatise on playmaking, starting from the playhouse, structure of the play, Abhinaya, different aspects of Abhinaya, rhythm, music, dance, everything, almost everything is covered under Natyashastra. And another thing that surprises me, that is wondrous to me, is Natyashastra talks about Dasa Rupaka. That means 10 kinds of plays. So think of the rich reservoir of theatres, plays we had in Sanskrit, that the Bharata could classify the plays into 10 categories, whereas Aristotle is classifying it into 2 categories. So there were enough number of plays written in Sanskrit prior to Natyashastra, so that the Natyashastra could classify it into 10 rupakas, Dasa Rupaka. Now, the Natyashastra describes 4 ways of acting. We all know. What are they? The physical is Angika, the verbal is Bachika, the emotional is Sattika, and the costume, makeup and the material things are Aharya. Natyashastra describes 2 characteristics of acting, Dharmi, Nattadharmi and Lokadharmi. What is Lokadharmi? Lokadharmi is acting with realistic, natural, in a more of a realistic, naturalistic mode, with exact replicas of mundane activities. The mundane body is represented in Lokadharmi. In Nattadharmi, it is very stylized. In Nattadharmi, the acting is very stylized. It is codified. It is gesticulated with a definite pattern. Their signs are used, mudras. Lokadharmi and Nattadharmi. In dances, Indian classical dances, mostly Nattadharmi acting, Nattadharmi Abhinaya is used. But the most important aspect that Natyashastra deals with is arguably the rasa theory. It says, "No hi rasadrite kashchid partha pravartate." No hi rasadrite kashchid partha pravartate. There cannot be any subject without rasa. There cannot be any subject without rasa. The central point in Bharata's aesthetics is rasa, and the key word in this concept is bhava. Rasa and bhava are 2 closely related words, not exactly the same words, but very closely related words, often used in different connotations, different meanings, and different contexts. We all know that Natashastra mentions about 8 rasas. No, not 9 rasas. It mentions about 8 rasas only. Sringara, Hassa, Kuruna, Rudra, Bira, Adbhuta, Bhanaka and Bibhatsa. The ninth rasa was a discovery by Kashmiri Pandit Abhinavagupta, the Shanta rasa. It was not mentioned in the Natashastra. Now what is rasa? Rasa means juice or essence or taste. Now what is the implication of the word rasa? Because it is enjoyably tasted, it is called rasa. Why is it enjoyably tasted? Why do I say that it is enjoyably tasted? Because if there is a Karuna rasa, if there is a enactment of Karuna rasa, the actors are enacting to cult Karuna rasa. It is transmitted to the audience and the audience feels sad. The Karuna rasa is being transmitted to the audience. The audience feels very sad. But they enjoy being sad. That is very interesting. So I say that enjoyably tasted is called rasa. The final feeling of the spectators is explained as rasa of natya. Rasa is the cumulative result of vibhava, which is the stimulus, anubhava, the involuntary reaction, and vavichari bhava, the involuntary reaction. Now what is bhava? Generally, very loosely, everybody has an idea that bhava is the cause and emotion, and bhava is the cause and rasa is the result. No, it is not like that. Bhava is that which we cult and rasa is the emotional consequence of that. No, it's not true. It's not like that. It's very complex. It's very, very complex. Bhava, or to emote, is the essence of literary and performing art. Bhava is the becoming. Essence of any theatrical performance and dance program is to become. To become Duryodhana. To become Dushyanta. To become Dr. Faustus. To become Hamlet. So bhava is becoming. The artist influences it, using the artistic power of his imagination and creativity. It's very obvious. The performer does this by creating situations, incidents, characters, and infusing attributes like feelings, thoughts, actions, etc. I'm very sorry, you have to excuse me for 1 second because I'm alone in this house and somebody is knocking for a long time. So just allow me 1 minute time. I'm very sorry because, lockdown period, everybody is alone in the house and I had to go and attend the person. They have come to deliver the water. So Bhava or to emote is the essence of literary and performing art. Bhava is becoming. Going by this simple understanding, state of mind and even the material condition like birth and death or growth and decay or existence and transformation is Bhava. Vibhava, Hetu, Karana, Nimitta. In Bengali we say Nimitto, Karon. So it's Karana, Hetu, means cause of what happens or is happening in life. Bharata has termed it as Vibhava and described its primary purpose as creating the awareness of the emotions that the creator intends to. So it is the Bharata termed it as Vibhava and has described its primary purpose as creating the awareness of the emotions that the creator, that the poet or the author intends to. With the reference to artistic presentation, creative expression, Vibhava can be interpreted as developing the knowledge or understanding of a specific emotion, mental state that the creator intends to convey through the means and mode of acting. Vibhava is the cause and Anubhava is the result, is the consequence. Vibhava is definite whereas Anubhava is not definite. It's very obvious. Because if you try to express something through a facial expression, the consequence is subjective. It cannot be definite. So, Anubhava is consequence. Vibhava is definite, whereas Anubhava is not definite. Then comes the Vyabhichari Bhava. Vyabhichari Bhava refers to complementary psychological states. There are 33 types of Vyabhichari Bhavas defined. Everybody knows this, it is very readily available. I would not like to read out the names of the Vyabhichari Bhavas. Nirveda, Glani, Shanka, you all know about it. If you are interested to remember the names, then it is very readily available. It's very readily available. Again, Sthayi Bhava refers to durable psychological states. Sthayi. So it refers to durable psychological states. There are 8 kinds of Sthayi Bhavas. Rati, love. Utshaha, energy. Jugupsha, disgust. Krodha, anger. Hasa, mirth. Bishaya, astonishment. Vaya, fear. Soka, sorrow. According to Natya Shastra, the sentiment, the rasa, is produced, rasa nispatti, from a combination, samayoga of determinants, vibhava, consequence, anubhava, and complementary psychological states, vyabhichari bhava. So it's from a combination of all 3, the rasa is created. Here lies my main confusion. Here lies my main question. Where is rasa produced? Is it produced at the stage? Whether it is being produced by the actor, or the actor does something and as a consequence of which it is produced in the minds of the people who are experiencing it, the audience. If rasa is the aesthetic pleasure, if it is the taste, the example of taste has been given by Bharata himself. This condiments, if you put different kinds of condiments, it gives to a final taste. then it must be formed in the minds of the audience, Darshaka. But Bharata does not talk of Darshaka in the 2 chapters of Rasa and Bhava. He does not take into consideration the audience here. But if it is an aesthetic enjoyment of the audience, then Abhinaya produces Rasa in the audience. Then why do we say Rasa Abhinaya? Why don't we say Vava Abhinaya? Here is the main misconception. I was telling at the beginning that we think that Vava is that which we cult and Rasa is the effect. No, it's not like that. Rasa Siddhanta is a great contribution of Sanskrit poetics to the subject of literary criticism. It is a common understanding that the concept of rasa was first discovered by Bharata in Natyashastra, but no, there are references of rasa in the Vedic literature also. Yes. Rasa Siddhanta is a great contribution of Sanskrit poetics to the subject of literary criticism. There are references about the term rasa even in the Vedic literature. In Rig Veda, rasa is generally used in the sense of juice of the plant. The Atharva Veda, while treating the sense of rasa as the juice of plants, extends its usage to the sap of grain. So both in Rig Veda and Atharva Veda we get reference of rasa. During the Upanishadic period, rasa in the sense of the essential element in plants or grain loses its particular character and changes as the essential element or the essence alone. From the Upanishad period, it starts becoming the essence. Rasa is the essence. In Taittiriya Upanishad, rasa has been examined metaphysically and identified with Brahman. Rasa indeed is he, is the sloka. Rasa indeed is he. He is the Brahman. In the Maitreya Upanishad, there is a combination of both its sense and it refers to essence, par excellence and to the highest taste of experience, accompanied by a sense of joy. In other words, rasa referred in the Upanishads stands for the supreme reality of the universe, namely the self-luminous consciousness to attain which when realized results in perennial bliss. The Upanishads conceived of the ultimate reality as the fullness of perfection and the fountainhead of all enjoyment, rasa. Great pleasure from the compilation of universalized emotions, which proves what has been said in the Chandogya Upanishads. There is pleasure in abundance and not in scarcity. The word rasa was very familiar in the sense of highest bliss, and it was known to the Upanishads. I think it's an information for many of you. For many of you, rasa is a very Natyashastra concept, but reference of rasa was there in the Vedic literature also. In the Upanishads it was there. Interestingly, rasa is included in gunas by Nayayikas. In Kama Sutra, rasa is treated on the basis of sex. In the opinion of Laukika or materialist, rasa is involved of 6 gunas like sweetness, etc. Now I was talking about the confusion that if rasa is the aesthetic enjoyment, then rasa must be at the minds of the people who are experiencing it. I was very confused till yesterday. I talked to my teacher. He is like one of my gurus. Bachashpati Dr. K.G. Paulos. He was the Vice Chancellor of Kerala Kalamandalam. He was the person behind bringing Kudiyattam out of the temple as a full-fledged theatre. He had written more than 60 books. His last work was he has translated the whole of the Upanishad into Malayalam. I have not met a single person in my life as learned as Dr. Paulos and as good a teacher as Dr. Paulos. I have read Natashastra under his guidance. I had learned Natashastra from his guidance, but till now, even if I am in any question, if I have any silly questions, if I have any basic questions, I always feel free to call him and ask, sir, this is my confusion. So yesterday I talked to him and told him about my confusion. He gave a very good description. He explained to me very clearly that it's true that Rasa theory originated from the Natashastra, but it has a history of evolution. It is not static. It has a history of evolution. In Natashastra, Bharata does not take the audience into consideration. But Abhinavagupta does that. I'll come. In the 6th century, Dandin found the idea of rasa so enchanting that he wanted to incorporate it in his design of poetry, but could not find out a way to do the same. He therefore accommodated rasa as a separate category of figure of speech. He could not make any qualitative difference between vava and rasa. This is 6th century. Next, Vatta Lolata said that production, nishpatti of rasa takes place from the combination of vibhava, anubhava and vavichari bhava. The idea is that aesthetic delight results from the operation of the constituents of stimulants of an emotional situation. This is very scientific, that unless there is a stimulant for an emotional situation, the emotion does not rise. The resulting reaction in terms of mental and physical conditions and transient feelings. Shankuka, the next scholar, who came next, differed from Lolata. The original character can never be the abode of rasa, he says. And Shankuka argued that rasa dwells in the actor. In the normal state it is emotion, but when it is imitated it becomes rasa. Perhaps Shankuka wanted to say that its emotion is already there in the actor. When some emotion is brought out by imitating something, then it becomes rasa. The next phase started in the 9th century and extended to the next 2 centuries. This was a very important phase in the history of evolution of the rasa theory, rasa aesthetics. This phase is marked by radical ideas on aesthetics. In the 9th century, Anandavardhana came out with his doctrine of aesthetic pleasure, the doctrine of dhani. Whereas the rasa siddhanta is an effective theory, the dhani theory is a semantic theory. Dhani theory shifted the focal point from the stage to the audience. So, for the first time, the audience comes into picture through the dhani theory. Dhani theory shifted the focal point from the stage to the audience, from the text to the reader. All the deliberations on rasa till the 8th century were text-based or stage-centered, and darshaka is not found at all. Next was Vattanayaka, whose text is missing and only references are found. Vattanayaka was a scholar whose text is not been found, but there have been very good references of Vattanayaka's text. Almost it is read, and he had also contributions about this. Next is the most significant, as per my ideas, is Abhinavagupta. After clearly expounding the views of earlier commentators of Rasa, Abhinavagupta sets out in exhaustive details his own theory of Rasa. Abhinavagupta observes that Rasa is suggested by the union of permanent mood, sthayi bhava, with the vibhava, etc., to the relation between the suggested and the suggested. Vango Vanjaka Vavam. It puts it in another way. When he says that the practice of rasa is nothing other than avibhakti. Avibhakti is the manifestation through the power of suggestion, resulting in an extraordinary state of relish known as rasana or ashada. Ashad, we say ashad. Abhinavagupta explains how Sharidaya is a person who enjoys a play with a good heart. Saridaya experiences the delight of poetic experiences. When a Sharidaya reads a poem or witnesses a play, the sthayi bhava remaining in the form of a latent impression in his mind is awakened by the depicted vibhava. So this gives a very conclusive idea to my confusion. I'll reread this. This I came to understand or know after discussing with Dr. K.G. Paulos yesterday and reading a bit more about Abhinavagupta. Abhinavagupta explains how Sharidaya experiences the delight of poetic experiences. Experiences the delight of poetic experiences. When a Sharidaya reads a poem or witnesses a play, the sthayi bhava remaining in the form of a latent impression in his mind is awakened by the depicted vibhava. Rasa, Abhinavagupta observed, is suggested by the union of the permanent mood with the vibhavas through the relation of the suggested and the suggester. In other words, the pratiti of rasa is nothing other than abhivakti, a manifestation through the power of synesthesia, resulting in an extraordinary state of relish known as rasana or asada. So this is the theoretical. I have talked almost 40 minutes till now. So I think it would not be wise for me to read from the writings of Richard Schechner, G. Venu and Vinapani Chawla as I decided. I would just like to say a few words about how we in our theatre intend to work with Rasa Abhinaya. The Kudiyattam actors, when they practice Navarasa, the Kathakali actors when they perform Navarasa, when a Bharatanatyam dancer practices Navarasa, it is always Natyadharmi. But for a contemporary actor, Rasa Abhinaya or emotive acting has to be a journey from Lokadharmi to Natyadharmi and Natyadharmi to Lokadharmi. Then, is it wise to think that the tradition has no relevance in our acting? Absolutely no. We have to take inspirations, trainings from the traditional Navarasa acting. We have to relate it to our daily experiences, our present day world, our sensibilities of understanding the environment, and then the compilation of both has to be internalized to give a perfect experience of rasa. Rasa Abhinaya in Kudiyattam or Kathakali or in the other dance forms, they build up the emotion externally. It's very interesting. It's like Meyerhold's theory contradicting Stanislavski's idea of emoting internally. They do it externally. The eyebrow should go up. The eyelid below should tremble very minutely. The eyeball should go this way and take a round and come at the center and then look at the hero. Then it is the Sringara. Everything is codified, but it is built externally in the body, not internally. It has nothing to do internally. But if you look into the functioning of the Navarasa of the masters, Manu master in Bharatanatyam, or say Manimadhav Chakyar in Kudiyattam, Gopi Ashan in Kathakali, you can understand, you can see that they are making another journey from external manifestation to connect to the inner self. How to connect with the inner self? To connect with the inner self, you have to be aware of the world around you. You have to be aware of the social contradictions. You have to be sensible about the social happenings. Then only you can relate the external making of a rasa in the body, building up of a rasa externally with the internal contradictions, and then reverberating it with some of your emotion. All the emotions are hidden within you. So you can connect one emotion, reverberate it, and then it is manifested in what you have already built up. You have already built up through the eyes and the face and the body. It is already built up. You make it live. This is organic, very organic. It's possible. I don't know whether I have bored you too much, but I really feel very, very sorry that I can't read out from the writings of Venuji, Richard Schickner and Vinapani Chawlaji. I selected very, very interesting portions from their writings which could have been very useful for the performers. But if you still have the interest, if I have been able to generate even a little interest through my talk, you can be in touch with me and I would love to share the ideas further. My thanks, my respect, my pranam to Guru Mohadi. My love and respect to all the artists of her institution, and thanks for listening to me for such a long time. Be well, be safe, be within the house. If not very much required, don't go outside. The situation is very difficult now. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks or couple of months. The coronavirus is spreading like anything. We need to take care of ourselves. We will be maintaining physical distancing but having strong social relations, not social distancing. Good night. Namaskar. Good evening. Thanks to Gauriya Nritya Bharati and my regards to Guru Moha Mukherjee, who had given me an opportunity to speak on Rasa Abhinaya and Rasa Aesthetics for the second day. The first day I talked on last Friday, which was 5th of June, and I didn't expect that so many people will be listening to such a dry talk without any demonstration, only talking and talking and talking. But to my utter surprise, I noticed that many people had listened to the talk and they had been responding to me. They had inboxed me questions to clarify their queries, and like that. So it was very encouraging for me that Guru Nitya Bharati gave me a second opportunity to conclude whatever I have to say in a second session. Yes, in the last session, I made a mistake by coming live from my own profile due to my lack of technical knowledge. And today I have rectified the mistake by making the same mistake again. Today again I am live from my own profile, but I believe Shomo had already shared it from Guru Nitya Bharati's page. Shomo, will you please make a comment saying that you have been able to share the page in Guru Nitya Bharati's page? And if somebody comments that whether I am audible or not, আমাকে কি শোনা যাচ্ছে? Well, in the first session I had explained that I would be required to speak in English only for one reason, that many of my students from outside Kolkata, especially Mumbai and Mysore, had shown interest in listening to this talk, and also many of my European students are also following. So I'll be required to speak in English, and apologies for my Bengali students, my Bengali actors and Bengali friends. Please allow me to speak in English today also. In the first day, in the first session, I gave a very precise and brief introduction about the Rasa theory. I started with describing Natashastra in one or two words. Natashastra as an encyclopedic treatise on theatre, the Indian dramaturgy, the mention of 10 kinds of plays, the Dasa Rupaka. Well, somebody was asking me to talk about Dasa Rupaka, but the subject today is different. So I'm sorry I can't speak about Dasa Rupaka, but if you have an interest in listening to me about Dasa Rupaka, I very well can speak about it. But this is not the forum where I can speak about Dasa Rupaka. And then I made my journey into the definition of Rasa as explained in the Natashastra, Bharata's Natashastra. The relation of the rasas and the bhavas. I didn't waste much time in mentioning the names of the rasas because everybody knows it. 8 rasas of Natashastra, and the 9th rasa was by Abhinava Gupta, the Shanta rasa. I had tried to explore into the different commentaries starting from Dandin to Abhinava Gupta about the rasa, like trying to make a journey about how rasa is interpreted in Indian dramaturgy and Indian aesthetics. It was more of a very theoretical discussion. Academicians were very happy. They had let me know that they were very happy with the discussion. In a very small time, in a very little time, I could cover a lot. But my practitioner friends students, they were expecting a bit more about the practical aspect of the Abhinaya. As because I am basically a practitioner, they were expecting some clues about how Rasa Abhinaya can be practiced. In the last session also I mentioned that I wanted to read out from 3 very significant contributions in the Rasa theory. One is by Richard Schechner, the other by G. Venu from Kerala, who is a Kudiyattam actor and a maestro. He has written lots of books and has introduced the world to the Kudiyattam repertoire very theoretically, documenting lots of things. He had been with Amanur Madhav Chakyar for a long time, and now Venuji has introduced Navarasa exercises where he has developed a process based on the tradition to penetrate deep into the Abhinaya practice. Different layers of acting through Navarasa. We know that Richard Schechner has also done the same thing. He has studied Rasa aesthetics, he has interpreted Rasa aesthetics in his own terms, in his own language, and has discovered Rasa boxes exercises, which is again very occidental, but it is again a contribution to the Rasa Abhinaya. And last, but I guess the most significant contribution has been done by our respected Vinapani Chawla ji, who had used tradition to explore Abhinaya through Navarasa. She had also taken inspiration from Kudiyattam, the living tradition of Natashastra. We feel very sad to feel that Vinapani Chawla ji is no more with us. Otherwise, maybe her contribution in this field would have been continuing and we would have been enlightened more. So, today I will first read out very small portions, but maybe very significant for practitioners, for theoreticians, from the writings of these 3 maestros, G. Venu first, then Richard Schechner, and finally Vinapani Chawla. And then maybe I'll be inviting 2 of my actors, very beginners there, to demonstrate a little that how we are trying to make our journey into Abhinaya through Navarasa practice. So, I think I'll first start with G. Venu's writing. The Navarasas, or the 9 rasas, are the greatest contribution to the Indian theatre from our rich tradition. The reality that the accomplished enactment of various characters and dramatic moments on the stage can submerge the viewers in aesthetical experience has been meticulously studied and analyzed by our ancient Indian aestheticians. So, see, Venuji is mentioning very clearly that enactment of various characters and dramatic moments on the stage can submerge the viewers in aesthetical experience. So he's saying, he's taking into consideration the aesthetic experience of the people who will be experiencing a performance, a play or a dance performance. So, Rasa, yesterday in the last meet, I was telling that there is a confusion. Also, the confusion existed in me till very late time, that if rasa is the aesthetic enjoyment of the people who are experiencing it, why is it said that rasa abhinaya? Why it is not said vava abhinaya? I think I would be able to elaborate a little more today. So I wanted to highlight this portion of Venuji's writing. The reality that the accomplished enactment of various characters and dramatic moments on the stage can submerge the viewers in aesthetical experience has been meticulously studied and analyzed by our ancient Indian aestheticians. And they realized that the experience of beauty or aesthetic experience is created only when witnessing or experiencing a creative work of art. This realization had led them to conduct exhaustive and micro-level analysis into the vast area of the subject. Navarasa sadhana is the systematic and daily practice of the 9 rasas by the actors with the aim of strengthening their capacities for producing the aesthetical experience in the viewers. So Venuji also sounds in the same way, like the Nata Shastra, that rasa is the essence of any acting. It is the core of any acting. Sage Bharata has included 8 rasas, including Singara, the erotic sentiment, Hashya, the comic sentiment, Karuna, the pathetic sentiment, Raudra, the furious sentiment, Veera, the heroic sentiment, Vayanaka, the terrible sentiment, Bibhatsa, the odious sentiment, and Adbhuta, the marvelous sentiment in his treatise, Nata Shastra. A 9th rasa, Santa tranquility, was added at a later stage and thus constituting the Navarasa. Tolkappiyam, the ancient grammar text of Sentamil, refers to 8 rasas of mind as maipathus or expressions through the body. These are Nakai, Hashya, Alukai, Dukha or sadness, liberal, Talla, humility, Marukai, Adbhuta, Akkam, Bhaya, Perumitam, Veera, and Uvakai, Kama. The references are contained in the 251 Kuttram Sutra of Tolkappiyam. Among these, liberal humility is not found in any other treatise. Another interesting aspect of this list is the absence of Bibhatsha. The Sthai Vavas were included as part of the training of Abhinaya for many centuries. In Kerala, where Kuttu and Kudiyattam, the most important ancient forms of Natya, are being conserved till date. Detailed studies, including observations and experimentations on how to enhance and strengthen the 8 rasas, are also being conducted here since long. The techniques of Abhinaya that were developed and documented could be found in the ancient palm leaf manuscripts. So he is talking about taking inspiration from the tradition, definitely, and then developing one's own process of practice of the Navarasa. According to Natya Shastra, the Vavas are divided into 3 categories, namely the Sthai Vavas, 8 Sthai Vavas, the 33 Vyabhichari Vavas, the transitory states, and 8 Sattika Vavas, internal emotions manifested. No one has been able to bring out or suggest any changes in these classifications that had been defined centuries ago. Navarasa sadhana helped to enhance the acting methodology devised by me for the synthetic and daily practice of the 9 basic emotions by the actors. He has mentioned another very important thing is he talks about the traditional actors and says that they often organize special galleries for teaching Navarasa Abhinaya to the students of classical performing art forms like Kudiyattam and Kathakali. Kudiyattam artists like Amanur Madhava Chakyar used to avail of the specialized training from Kodangallur after completing their traditional education. In Kathakali, and I don't know about Kathakali very well, but in Kudiyattam what they do is they have a very specific breathing mechanism. This will be very evident when I will be reading out from the writing of Vinabani Chawla, that the breathing exercise helps in building up a rasa, a emotive state. So this is built up externally. It is not the process of emotional memory of Stanislavski. It is just the opposite to that. Indian dramaturgy, Indian practitioners, Indian actors, traditional actors, they have said, they have practiced, they have developed a methodology of building up rasas, of emoting externally, or being able to emote externally, building up the rasas, instead of using emotional memory as advocated by Stanislavski. I would next read out from a little bit from Richard Schickner's writing and then go to Vinabani Chawla's writing. He mentions a very interesting term, Richard Schickner. Rasic performance has at its goal not separating winners from losers, but extending pleasures as an endless banquet or an always deferred, almost sexual orgasm. It accomplishes this in a way comparable to cooking. The combination, he writes come and then hyphenated bination, or transformation of distinct elements into a something that offers new and or intense and or favorite flavors or tastes. Rasic performances value immediacy over distance, savoring over judgment. Its paradigmatic activity is a sharing between performers and partakers. This is very important. Rasic performance values immediacy over distance, savoring over judgment. Its paradigmatic activity is a sharing between performers and partakers. The Rasic performance event is more a banquet than a day in the court. The Natyashastra puts it in the way those who are connoisseurs of tastes enjoy the taste of food prepared from different styles. Likewise, intelligent, healthy persons enjoy. So, he mentions about Natyashastra, which we have already discussed at length. But the most important thing is, here also he talks about connoisseurs. So, the rasa is important for the person who experiences it. You create an emotion, but it has to be transmitted to the pupil. I personally believe that our actors have to create the rasa on the stage like a volcanic eruption. They have to create the, they have to make journeys from one rasa to another through the vavas, Thai vavas and the Vavichari vavas, in a way that the emotions or the sentiments are erupted like volcanic eruptions, and these eruptions will cover the whole space and the audience will very naturally be included in it. So people who will be experiencing it will become a part of the emotion after the actor cults it on the stage in such a big way, he manifests it in such a vast way that the energy is automatically transmitted in a way that people who are experiencing it are included in that space and people start enjoying it aesthetically. I'll read out from Bhinapani Chawla's writing. It would be very, very interesting for the practitioners. I know some of you have already known about it, but those of you who don't know about it, please pay most attention to this portion, because this is very interesting for the practitioners. Bhinapani Chawla writes, Western methods of acting use Stanislavski's process of emotional recall for psychological expression. We found this inadequate. She says that she finds it inadequate for our purposes. To begin with, the process of emotional recall takes real time. Sometimes it's really time taking. And it is not unfailing in performance night after night. She says that it may fail in repeated performances. If you go on performing a show, if you go on performing a character, you may fail in emoting it through emotional memory night after night. The sharpness of recall seems to wear off after some time. We know that if we take an example of a very common emotion or a sentiment, that is grief, if you lose a very close relative of yours, the grief in you gradually fades out. Time heals up everything. So if you go on recollecting through the emotional memory time and again, maybe the sharpness of the emotion may get a little blunt. It may get a little blunt. It was Ammanur Madhavacharya who pointed in the direction of an unfailing physical craft, the breath, the breathing. This was a few years before the discovery of the centers as a potent force for the stimulation of emotion. Breath is the physical expression of thought and emotion. In daily life, we find that the way we think and feel determines our breath. If we experience shock or fear, we find ourselves drawing in our breath sharply and holding it at the back of our throat. If we feel sorrow, we find our breath locked in the center of our chest. This implies that a particular emotion has a particular pattern of breath. A particular emotion has a particular pattern of breath. This is very important for the practitioners. We are in the process of developing a Abhinaya practice through Navarasa, where we are working with breathings. We have just started walking more deeply into the breathings, and breathing is very important. This implies that a particular emotion has a particular pattern of breath. In Kudiyattam practice, there existed the knowledge of 8 codified patterns of breath. 8 codified patterns of breath corresponding to the 8 rasas. It is apparent that this codification emerges from a study of breath behavior in everyday life. I am reading out from the writing of Bhinapani Chawla ji. I am not quoting my own version. I have little differences from what I am reading out now that I can explain afterwards when I will be talking about my own process. But this is very effective, very scientific and very useful, and is absolutely derived from the Indian tradition, the living traditions of the Nata Shastra. Adi Shakti's contribution, Adi Shakti is the theatre of Bhinapani Chawla ji. Adi Shakti's contribution to the Kudiyattam craft was to extend it. She says that she has extended the craft of Kudiyattam. To begin with, we modified the large stylized patterns of breath as given to us by Kudiyattam and made them subtle, such that while emotions were internally experienced, They did not necessarily have to spill out externally. So interesting. She says that, well, the 8 breathing patterns corresponding to the 8 rasas were advocated by Dirdctor. But they, in their theatre Adishakti, under the guidance of Binapani Chawla ji, had made a deeper journey with more subtle developments of breathings into more subtle emotional journeys. Our discovery that the resonators of the voice, the centers of body dynamics, and psychological expression are located in related regions of the body, in addition to the knowledge that each emotion has a breath pattern which is located in a chakra unique to it, led us to demonstrate that all 3 psychological, vocal and bodily expression were united in a common breath. So they used the concept of chakra also. I don't know whether it would be possible for me to talk about the chakras in details in today's session, but this is very interesting. We are also working on this process. Our body has different energy centers, and our tantric system, traditional tantric system, has developed exercises to arouse these chakras in different ways. So I find from this writing that they are using those also, ideas of those also. By way of example, the same breath used in expressing karuna or sorrow in Dirdctor for Mukha Abhinaya was used by actor Vinay Kumar to express anguish through his voice and body in Brihannala. Vinay Kumar is a very famous actor. Many of you must be knowing him. He is from Adishakti and a follower of Binapani Chawla ji. His famous play Brihannala, many people know about it. So in Brihannala, what is mentioned here was used by actor Vinay Kumar to express anguish through his voice and body in Brihannala, when he cries as Arjuna at the death of Abhimanyu. In Dirdctor, karuna is expressed to the face by a process in which the breath energy is pulled up from the base of the spine and stored in the chest region. Practitioners, please take note of this sentence. Karuna is expressed through the face. It is not mimicking the face. It is not mimicking the face. We indulge beginners, we indulge new actors in the process of mimicking the face. We indulge them because that is a start. But finally, karuna is expressed to the face by a process in which the breath energy is pulled up from the base of the spine and stored in the chest region, while the breath energy from the neck is compressed down on this concentration of the chest. The concentration of these two energies coming from physically different parts of the body results in the feeling of a load in the heart. This gives a feeling of a load in the center of the heart. It also creates an experience of extreme pain on the face, and because it's struggling in the absence of breath. This expression of pain feeds the emotional center and arouses real emotional pain. It is akin to watching yourself cry in the mirror, which makes you then cry more fiercely. This is very interesting, no? It is akin to watching yourself cry in the mirror, which makes you then cry more fiercely. So I think this is enough of reading from Binapani Chawlaji's writings, where he talks about her own techniques, the Adishakti techniques of acting. I had already talked for 32 minutes. I think I had been able to give a clue to the practitioners that in the acting of Navarasa or through the practice of Navarasa, we can make our journey into different layers of Abhinaya. And in our theatre, what we do is, theatre for us is a celebration of life. We celebrate life through theatre. And for us, celebration of emotions on stage is most significant. When we characterize, we don't go by the Western methodology of characterizing a character. We don't go by the age of Dushyanta, the economic status of Dushyanta. Dushyanta is a king that is only important for us. And when Dushyanta meets Sakuntala, then the Sringara, we celebrate the Sringara on the stage for hours together. So we celebrate the emotion in a way, I mentioned just now, that like volcanic eruption, the Sringara is transmitted in the whole space and people have an aesthetic enjoyment of Sringara. So in our theatre, this Rasa Abhinaya is very important because we celebrate through Rasa Abhinaya. I will invite one of our very new actors in explaining you how they start with the mimicking and how then another actor, maybe a little more senior than him, to demonstrate how the breathing gradually, the mimicking gradually transforms into or initiates them into a deeper journey or initiates them into the journey of the breathing process and a more deeper journey into the Rasa Abhinaya. I again repeat that in Rasa Abhinaya, in our process, in our theatre, what we do is, firstly, we try to follow the tradition in toto, in a very Nattadharmi way. I had explained what is Nattadharmi in my last session. Nattadharmi is a very stylized way of acting. It's very symbolic. Many signs and codifications are used, mudras and everything are used. It's very stylized. Whereas Lokadharmi is much more of a realistic, naturalistic way of acting. So we initiate with a journey of learning the codified way of expressing the emotions. Then the second phase is transforming it or making a intra or inter journey from the Nattadharmi to the Lokadharmi and Lokadharmi to the Nattadharmi, using one's own sensibilities, one's own perception about his environment, his society. An actor has to have his own perceptions about the society, about the environment in which he is living. His own sensibilities matter. So with those sensibilities, he will be making a continuous journey from the Lokadharmi to the Nattadharmi, because Lokadharmi acting is basically a realistic acting and it depends on the experience, mundane experience and the social vulnerabilities. Then comes another thing, the last part of it, which is really, really very delicate, and it happens with very matured acting, very senior actors, that this emotive journey is connected in a very sattvika level. That is, they are being able to connect internally with their internal self, and then the eruption of the energy is magnified like anything. It becomes more magnified. So I'll invite two of my actors. I don't know how to do this very well, but I'll try. Nato, can you help me in inviting? How is it done? This way?
ওই আইকনটা
এটা yes, I think I'm very close to the journey. Here I find Kaustav Gupta and I'm sorry, I'm requiring to invite two of my actors for a little bit of demonstration. Yes, Oishik, are you there? Oishik, I don't see you. Oishik, I've already invited Oishik, but I don't see Oishik here. It is taking a little bit of time, I believe, because of the net. So we have Kaustav here and not Oishik. So we have Kaustav here. Kaustav,
Yes, sir.
Kaustav is under the training of a curious artist from Kerala, very young artist, Manish Mitra, and also he is taking training from our senior actor Raju Bora. Kaustav, why can't I see Oishik? Just one second. Okay, I think I have missed Oishik. Kaustav, can you please
Yes, sir.
demonstrate Singara? Can you please demonstrate Singara as it is for a person experiencing kama, for a person having sexual provocation, rati. So
Yes.
Sringara can be of
Yes.
many kinds, you know. So can you try to card that rasa of expressing it as it is for kama?
Yes.
This is what they are absolutely mimicking from the traditions without properly understanding the breathings. They are in the process of learning the actual breathing system. Kostav, if you now initiate a little bit of journey into the Lokadharmi, the way
Yes.
we do, use your experience of learning from tradition, use your experience from learning from tradition and use it with your Lokadharmi experience. If you add a little bit of your inner feelings, I I guess Kaustav is becoming too much of Ushika. He's feeling a lot. Okay, thank you, Kaustav. Now, if you show a little bit of Karuna, the way you are imitating your Kudiyattam Guru. Lokadharmi part of it. Use a little bit of your experience from tradition. Use a little bit of experience from tradition, but do it in a Lokadharmi way. Exaggerate it with your notions of Naktadharmi. And use your emotions now. Use your emotions, your intent, and cult the external thing. Use your internal energy. The breathing. Don't get completely engrossed into it. Don't get completely engrossed in your personal grief. Can you come down to the Santa Rasa immediately? Can you? Thank you, Kaustav, for being with me in this demonstration. So, this is a very gross demonstration. It is not possible to demonstrate exactly every nuance things of our process. Even we don't want to show off everything very openly, because it's a practice, it is a life practice, being together and then practicing something for a long period of time continuously through different life habits, and then being able to pulse, then being able to understand, then being able to actually make a deep journey into the emotional world. It's not very easy. It's really a very difficult journey. But it is somehow a rough idea of how we try to do it. The beginners, Kaustav is almost a beginner in our theatre, in our repertory. He is not as senior as Raju or Taposh, but or Saurabh. But Kaustav is very new. But he's now in the process of the Rasa Abhinaya. He's learning it, he's trying to do it, but the journey has not been properly initiated with him. I deliberately invited him because then only you can understand that what is the process of making the emotion. The finished part, you will experience it when you will come to see our play, when you will come to see Urubangam or Macbeth Baddo. But the making, so you can evidently see that it is not through emotional memory that the actor is trying to do. The actor is trying to mimicry the facial expressions of the Rasa Abhinaya from Kudiyattam or maybe slightly from Kathakali also. And then he is taking care of the breathing, the process of the breathing. That is very difficult. Even if you understand the breathing process theoretically, to achieve it, it's very difficult. When you achieve it, you are a real sadhaka. You are in a stage of success. And then again through the breathing, one has to connect somewhere internally. It is not emotional memory that is connecting it when he is into the grief. But there is an energy which is not very subjective, which is not very much related to your personal happiness or personal grief. It is not like connecting to your personal grief or personal happiness, but it's an energy that is within us, and that helps us in connecting to the breathing system, to the facial expressions, and curb the emotion finally. Another very important addition in our process is, it is exclusively my process, it is exclusively Arghya's process, it is exclusively Kasba Arghya's process, that in our Rasa Abhinaya, music is very important. Because our actors start functioning with the music. Unless there is no music, our actors don't function, or we do not insist them to function. We say that Nada Brahma, that is, the whole universe is Nada, a sound. And our bodies are manifestations of the sound. With all our sensory nerves, with all our perception abilities, our bodies again are sound, always vibrating with a definite frequency. So when there is a signal of music, it is a sound wave coming to your body with a definite frequency, and it definitely affects your perceptory system, your motor nerves, your sensory nerves, your whole body. And Rasa Abhinaya is finally not an expression of the face. It is a total state of the body, the total condition of the body, the state where you exist actually at that stage. The bodily where you go, bodily where you, the bodily state you attain through the Rasa Abhinaya. It is not a facial acting of facial expressions. Most of the cases, in many cases, I have been noticing that I apologize for my observation, but for ordinary dancers and very ordinary actors, I really apologize for using the term ordinary, but try to understand what I am trying to mean. I have seen that they make very fake expressions because they don't know, or they don't understand, or they have not initiated their journey to go to that state bodily. You have to make a journey to that state bodily, and then only your first step of Rasa Abhinaya is initiated. I think I have been able to answer a lot of queries for the practitioners in today's session, and I think I should conclude now. I've talked for almost 50 minutes. Thank you for giving a patience hearing, for lending me your ears for 50 minutes. I welcome questions, not in this forum, but in my inbox. I welcome any kind of further discussions. I welcome confusions. I welcome further discussions. and I welcome people to include themselves in our process of Rasa Abhinaya. Thanks to Gauriya Nritya Bharati, my respect to Guru Moha Mukherjee. For friends who are outside Bengal or outside India who do not know who is Moha Mukherjee, I would like to mention that she is a maestro lady who has, through her extensive field works and theoretical researches, academic research works and practical works, had given birth to the classical dance of Bengal, the Gauriya Nritya. So it's a special privilege for me that Moha Mukherjee has requested me to give this talk, and she was so happy on the first day's talk that she insisted me to come for the second time. I would be feeling very enlightened to know that if I have been able to throw even a little light on the practice of Rasa Abhinaya, please let me know through inbox or comments. Namaskar. Good night.